Another incredible story. It looks like the Supreme Court of the United States may finally end racist admissions policies in federally funded indoctrination centers masquerading as educational institutions. So a group of mostly Asians actually ended up suing the University of North Carolina and Harvard University, both of which, by the way, are getting gargantuan amounts of our federal taxpayer dollars to provide what they, I think, very loosely describe as an education. And yet both of these institutions deliberately and openly discriminate against people based on their race. Yes, they do. Right? If you are Asian, you're going to have a much harder time getting in. If you have ancestors who are European, you're going to have a much harder time getting in. And so now this very interesting lawsuit by these Asians, they were represented by a group called Students for Fair Admissions. They argued that discriminating against applicants based on their race is and should be a violation of the law, and that the Supreme Court should overturn their previous precedent. Incidentally, the two lawyers arguing for this organization were actually both former clerks of Justice Clarence Thomas, who happens to be of African heritage and who happens to be the most constitutional-minded member of the court nowadays. And just from what I saw of the hearings, from what I read about it, it looks like the conservative-leaning justices are extremely skeptical about using race and sex in admissions. In fact, they pretty much indicated that they were going to be repealing this, overturning this. And so you had Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He said, he was asking about how many more years of this racism in admissions do we need to do this? Because during the last case, it was in 2003, decided it was the Grutter case. They were told, the high court was told that, well, in 25 years, hopefully we won't need to be racist and sexist in our admissions anymore. We're almost at that 25 years now. And of course, it is still happening, and there are no signs that it's going to stop. And so Justice Kavanaugh asked, if you don't have something measurable, it's going to be very hard for this court, he said. They fully expect to do this indefinitely, I think. Chief Justice John Roberts also sounded very skeptical. He said to the lawyers there, he says, your position is that race matters because it's necessary for diversity, which is necessary for the sort of education you want. It's not going to stop mattering at some particular point. You're always going to have to look at race because you say race matters to give us the necessary diversity. And he's right? When the admissions officers obsessed with this diversity stuff say, well, we need this many of this type of color and this type of color. This is something that will go on absolutely indefinitely. Justice Thomas actually was very forceful on this. In the last case, back in 2003, said the Constitution abhors classifications based on race, not only because those classifications can harm favored races or are based on illegitimate motives, but also because every time the government places citizens on racial registers and makes race relevant to the provision of burdens or benefits, it demeans us all. And of course, he's absolutely correct. In this case, in his comments to the lawyers, he really got upset with this diversity. He's like, what is this diversity? I'm hearing this diversity all the time, and yet I have absolutely no idea what it means. And ironically, he actually compared the arguments in favor of racism in admissions to the same arguments that were being made by segregationists some decades ago. It is literally the same thing. Now, the newest member of the court, the far left race monger, I don't know how you say her name, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yeah, that's the same lady who couldn't define woman. Yeah, that one, because she's not a biologist. Apparently, you need to be a biologist. Well, she was an ardent defender of racist policies, even though, incidentally, during her Senate confirmation hearings, Ted Cruz asked her about this very case, and she said she planned to recuse herself. Apparently, she lied under oath. I don't know if it's too late to prosecute her for that. Now, she is like the example, right? All these people who love racism in college admissions, they say, well, look at Ketanji Brown Jackson, right? She's a perfect example of why we need affirmative action and racism in our policies. I happen to disagree. She's exhibit A as to why we don't want to promote people based on their skin color, because then you end up with people who can't define woman, right? My 4-year-old could probably define a woman. Legal analysts who are looking at this case say it's almost certain that the Supreme Court is going to strike down affirmative action. The real case is how far are they planning to go here? But you know what? In a free country, I think if you want to be a racist and you want to run your college based on racist criteria, fine. It's a free country. But in a free country, you don't get your tax money, our tax money, to subsidize your racism and your discrimination against descendants of Europeans and Asians. That's enough of that. We need to get the U.S. government out of education, completely out of education funding, and then all these issues and all this racism will magically disappear, and probably tuitions will go back down to something reasonable.